Hi, my name is Ravi. Welcome to my channel Payment Talks. Welcome back to ISO Pay-No-One video series. After understanding who can initiate a Pay-No-One and how is a Pay-No-One message actually built, it is time that we go deep into the fields of Pay-No-One. In today's video, we shall see each and every field of Pay-No-One and see the corresponding mapping of the MT101, and also we shall understand which fields of Pay-No-One are important and to be carried forward further into Paxo 8 for processing. Please note, ISO structure is robust and built to accommodate many business use case scenarios. In reality, industry is just starting to realize and utilize the ISO data richness. So many current fields of ISO messages are not even utilized. In this video, we shall see all the fields by ISO 20022 spec standard. This will prepare us for the future. But we will focus in more depth on the important fields which are used practically. We will touch upon the usage guidelines of schemes, particularly CBPR Plus, to make you understand that just understanding ISO alone can make you expert in any scheme, be it SEPA, Fedwire, CBPR Plus, etc. All you need to know is the small variations called usage guidelines that schemes apply on top of ISO. That's all. Another point, Pay-No-One is the important message after the most important Paxo 8 message. So we will spend considerable time in understanding these two messages to understand the ISO 20022 standard in greater depth. Once you have good command on these two messages and their concepts, rest of the messages are just application of these concepts to a new functional area. As you are familiar, this is the high level structure of Pay-No-One, divided into three main sections. We have already know what these sections are and what is the purpose and use. Now we will go field level using the same three section formats. We will split this video into two parts. In the first part, we will cover the two sections, group header and payment type information, which is batch level. The first field in the first section of group header is message identification. This is a mandatory field in Pay-No-One. This field is straightforward point-to-point reference as assigned by the initiating party and sent to the next party in the chain to unambiguously identify the message. Please note, this ID will not change at forwarding agent when passed from initiating agent to forwarding agent to debtor agent in a relay scenario. That's why I am saying as assigned by initiating party and not instructing party as per the spec, to be precise and clear. The equivalent field in MT101 is tag 20 in sequence A. As this is point-to-point reference, this is not passed in outgoing Paxo 8. The next field is creation date time. This is mandatory field in Pay-No-One. This field indicates the exact date and time when the payment initiation message was created by the initiating party system. In MT101, there is no dedicated field for message creation timestamp. Closest reference may come from Swift network headers block 2 or MIR rather than block 4 fields. This field is not mapped to the outgoing Paxo 8. Typically, the bank generates a new create date time when constructing the outgoing Paxo 8 message. The next field is authorization. This is optional field, but if present can repeat up to 2 times. This is user identification or any user key to be used to check whether the initiating party is allowed to initiate transactions from the account specified in the message. The content is not of a technical nature but reflects the organizational structure at the initiating side, which is mostly a corporate. The information is present in a coded form. Only 4 codes are allowed, which has specific meaning. As mentioned in the previous videos, we shall discuss the coded format and how it works in a ISO in a separate video. This field is equivalent to sequence A tag 25 in MT101. This is not applicable for Paxo 8. The next field is number of transactions. This is a mandatory field. The field indicates the total number of individual payment transactions contained in the payment initiation message, that is entire message. If pane1 contains one payment info with 10 transactions and another with 5 transactions, the value in this field is 10 plus 5 equals 15. Usually, banks use this information to validate the number of transactions in the message matches the declared count and ensure message integrity. Tag 28D message index and total tells total number of empty 101s in a file. But this field tells number of transactions inside the single pane01. Now you understand the difference and why both fields are not same. There is no equivalent field in empty 101. There is a same field in Paxo 8 called number of transactions. The functionality of these two fields in pane01 and Paxo 8 is same, but you cannot map this field to Paxo 8 directly. We will discuss the reason of why when we discuss the Paxo 8 message. Now we will see the first scheme usage guideline. We understand what this field is in ISO. Now CBPR has a usage guideline that all messages are single transactions. That is, CBPR Plus does not allow batch transactions. Which means even though ISO pane1 can have multiple payment information sections and multiple transaction sections, when it comes to CBPR message, both the sections appear only once. That means a ISO pane01 when transferred over the Swift CBPR FinPlus network, the message gets nagged. So now the value in this field for CBPR message would be, can you guess? Yes, it is always 1. Any other value than 1 will be rejected by CBPR. I hope that now you understand what is the difference between standard ISO and the scheme specific message. Small validations like these are the differences only. The modern schemes like SEPA, Fedwire, CBPR, etc. all are built on top of ISO. Once you have the knowledge of standard ISO, just by applying these restrictions, you will be a pro in scheme specific messages also. The same concept applies to the flows as well. ISO flows are the full superset. The complex flows of ISO can be seen in the cross-border CBPR, where you have the complex corresponding networks. Once you understand them, applying these concepts to the domestic flows, which are the subset, will be very easy. We will cover the differences of both the flows when we cover especially the Pax8 and Pax4 flows. Once we cover the flows and usage guidelines, then you become the master of ISO and no one can stop you. Okay, let's move on to the next field. The next field is control sum. This is optional field. This field tells about total of all individual amounts included in the message pane01, irrespective of the currencies. The important point here is irrespective of the currencies, this field shows total. Now in a multiple currency scenario like pane01 having two batches with the two debit accounts of different currencies, this field is irrelevant because sum of amounts only make sense when they are of same currency. But when it comes to domestic schemes like SEPA, this field is of importance. This field will maintain the integrity of the entire message just like the total number of transactions field. So again, if you see, this field is important for single currency scheme like SEPA, which can also support batches. But for a scheme like CBPR, where it is a single transaction, this field is just a repetition of the amount field and has no much significance. This is how usage guidelines make each field of ISO relevant or irrelevant based on their need. No equivalent field in MT101, and we cannot map this field directly to Paxo 8, just like the reason why we did not map number of transactions field. We will discuss why later. The next field is initiating party. We have already discussed enough on this field. But some key information about this field is that in Pay-No-One, this field is mandatory, meaning either the debtor itself or authorized party, whoever initiates the payment instruction, needs to be populated in this field. This field is very important field for debtor agent to process, and that's why made mandatory in Pay-No-One. Once the payment passes debtor agent, this field does not have much significance but will be present in the payment message Paxo 8 as information to maintain transparency if the initiating party is other than debtor. If it is debtor itself, then no need to populate in the Paxo 8, which also has the same field. The MT101 equivalent is sequence A tag 50 with option C and L. In MT101, mentioning of initiating party happens only when not equal to debtor. The next field is forwarding agent. We have already discussed enough on this field. This is optional in Pay-No-One and is populated only in relay scenarios. The MT101 equivalent is sequence A tag 51A. Sometimes in MT101 there is no specific validation on this field. So generally in relay scenarios, this information is not mentioned in block 4, but it is implied that the sender is a forwarding agent when sender is not present in the block 4 tags. This field is not applicable for Pax 8 message, and that's why this field is not even present in the Pax 8 message. The next field is initiation source. This field is optional. This field tells about the source application or software that is used to initiate the payment. This helps the bank identify which system channel initiated the payment file. Example, ERP, treasury system, online banking, etc. Useful in debugging when any issue. This field is not even part of the CBPR Plus scheme. That is, CBPR Plus usage guidelines removed this field in the Pay-No-One. This is a new enhancement in ISO, so no MT equivalent. Also in Paxo 8, this field does not exist because the interbank payment is already sent by the bank itself. So the customer system source is no longer relevant. With this, hope you understand the group header elements of Pay-No-One. We now move to the next section, that is payment information section. This section contains batch level info. This section contains set of characteristics that applies to the debit side of the payment transactions included in the credit transfer initiation. To understand the debit side and credit side of the payment chain, please refer to the previous videos of DPD and CPD, where it is clearly discussed on what will be the debit and credit side of a payment irrespective of the bank and its position in the payment chain. As per ISO, this section can repeat multiple times. Another case of scheme difference is that CBPR does not support batch, which means this section is not repeated in a CBPR Plus Pay-No-One message and will be present only once mandatorily with cardinality 1:1. Moving on to the fields, the first field is payment information identification. This is mandatory information. This field is the unique batch identifier as assigned by a sending party to unambiguously identify the payment information group within the message. There is no equivalent field in the MT101 as MT does not have exclusive batch section. But we can map this field with section B tag 21 when there is only one payment. When we talk about only one payment, we now know that in CBPR there will be only one payment, which means the ID in message ID group header and this payment information ID will be same for the CBPR Pay-No-One. Paxo 8 does not have batch layer, so this is not mapped to Paxo 8. The next field is payment method. This is mandatory field. This field specifies the means of payment that will be used to move the amount of money. This is represented in the coded format. 3 ISO codes are used in this field. First is TRF, credit transfer. This is the most common code used in 99% of the times, indicating the pay no one is the credit transfer that instructs the money to be moved as per the instruction details. The other two codes are seldom used and are often unsupported by many banks. I would explain them just for your reference. The next value is CHK, check. CHK is used when the corporate instructs the bank to issue a physical check instead of sending funds electronically. For example, a company needs to pay a vendor who does not accept electronic transfers. Bank usually will print the check and then check is either mailed to the beneficiary or collected from the branch. May be used in cases like insurance claim payments, refund checks, legal settlements, etc. The last code is TRA, transfer advice. TRA is used when the message is only sending payment information or advice, not actually instructing the bank to move funds. An example can be a corporate treasury system sends payment details to the bank for notification or reconciliation purposes, while the actual payment is executed separately. As this is information only, Paxo 8 is not generated in this case. This TRA value is not supported in CBPR scheme. In MT101, the payment method is implicit because the message itself represents a credit transfer request. Similarly, in Paxo 8, the payment method is also implicit because Paxo 8 represents a FI to FI credit transfer. So there is no direct equivalent field mapping to both. The next field is requested advice type. This is optional field. This field specifies whether the initiating party wants a payment advice or notification from the bank after the payment is processed. Two codes are supported along with details like debit or credit confirmation. Just an example can be a corporate treasury system wants the bank to send confirmation once the salary payments are processed. Can use this field. Just to give the context of usage of this field, this is very rarely used. Also, this field is removed from the CBPR scheme itself. There are no equivalent fields in Paxo 8 or MT101. The next field is batch booking. This is optional field with Boolean value. This field indicates whether the bank should post multiple transactions as a single debit entry or as individual debit entries on the debtor's account statement. True Boolean means one single entry and false means individual entries. The booking will impact mainly the customer reporting messages CAMT53 and CAMT54. There is no direct field in MT101, but the functionality can be achieved in MT101 using the field tag 21R in sequence A. We already discussed this rule in MT101 fields video. No equivalent field in a Paxo 8. As CBPR does not support the batch payments, this field is removed for CBPR scheme. The next fields are number of transactions and control sum. We have already discussed these two fields at length. What we need to understand is that same fields are present in group header section and at batch section in payment information. The values in these fields are impacted by the place in which they are located. For example, a pay no one contains one batch of 10 supplier payments and another batch of 5 salary payments. Then in group header section, the value will be 15 as there are 15 transactions in the message. The same in first payment information contains 10 and this field in the second payment information contains 5. Same logic goes for the control sum field also. Unlike MT case where the repeating fields are not allowed in both sections, in ISO the meaning and functionality is different, so can be used at both sections. In ISO, hierarchical rules apply. As already mentioned, no equivalent fields in MT101 and Paxo 8. In CBPR, these fields are removed as there is no batch concept in CBPR. The next field is actually a parent section called payment type information. This section is optional, but this is one of the most important sections because it influences how the payment should be processed by the bank and the payment scheme. Payment type information is essentially the control panel of payment processing. This section is presented twice in Payno 1, once at batch level and once at transaction level. This section is also present in Paxo 8. We shall discuss this section in a separate video later. For now, you just remember that this section, though optional, is very important for payment processing at banks. The next field after the payment type information is requested execution date. This is mandatory field. This has two options to be mentioned. One is date and another is date time. The date is to support the legacy date format of MT, and the date time is to support the futuristic ISO date time. This field specifies the date on which the debtor's bank should execute the payment, that is, debit the debtor account and start processing the payment. MT101 equivalent field is sequence A tag 30. In Paxo 8, it is mapped to interbank settlement date, but that is not a true mapping. We will discuss why during Paxo 8 discussion. The next field is pooling adjustment date. This is optional field. This date is used for the correction of the value date of a cash pool movement that has been posted with a different value date. Basically, it indicates the date when the liquidity or balance adjustment should occur in a cash pooling arrangement related to the payment batch. Now, cash pooling and liquidity management are treasury concepts of a corporate. I will not go in detail into these topics as we will focus mainly on the payments part. This field is very rarely or not used for normal payments, used mainly for sweeping cash positions of corporates. There is no equivalent in MT101. This is very least significant for Paxo 8. Though Paxo 8 contains the field with same name, it is only for information purpose, but not used in the processing either by banks or clearing schemes. The next set of fields are debtor and its account. Both the fields are mandatory. We have discussed in detail about debtor in our previous videos. Please visit the agents and parties videos series for more clarity. One thing I would like to highlight is that in MT, the account section is part of the agent or the party section itself. And if you remember, the account is always an optional element in MT in any letter option you take. In ISO, firstly, the accounts are separated from agents and parties. They are given separate placeholders and mostly these sections are optional. But in Payno 1, the debtor account is mandatory section. This is the only account section which is mandatory in all the ISO messages. Can you guess the reason why? Because as debtor agent needs to know the account from which it needs to take the money. The MT101 equivalent fields are either sequence A tag 50 FGH options or same field in sequence B. The Paxo 8 equivalent fields are with same name. The next set of fields are debtor agent and its account. Agent field is mandatory but account field is optional. In fact, I don't see the use of debtor agent account in Payno 1. We have discussed in detail about debtor agent in our previous videos. Please visit the agents and parties video series for more clarity. One thing I would like to highlight here is that Payno 1 ends at debtor agent and it gets converted into the Paxo 8 message for further processing. If it is a book transfer, then Payno 1 ends at debtor agent. We shall have a separate video on processing of payment instruction at debtor agent. This would be very useful information who want to understand the practical processing that happens in a bank, especially a debtor agent bank. The MT101 equivalent fields are either sequence A tag 52 AC options or same field in sequence B. The Paxo 8 equivalent fields are with same name. The next field is instruction for debtor agent. This field is optional. This is a plain text field at batch level. This field provides special processing instructions from the initiating party to the debtor's bank or debtor agent regarding how the payment batch should be handled. As this is a free text field, it is best for initiating party and a debtor agent to agree bilaterally the information that can be passed. Only then the payment can be automated to be STP'd. Otherwise, payment would need manual intervention to decode the information. There is no equivalent field in MT101. As this instruction is for debtor agent, the information is not passed into PAXO 8. The next field is ultimate debtor. This field is optional. As mentioned, we have already discussed these agents in detail in previous videos. Please refer to the agents and parties in ISO message video series. There is no equivalent field in MT101, and in PAXO 8 we have the same field. The next field is charge bearer. This field is optional. This field takes coded information. This field specifies which parties will bear the charges associated with the processing of the payment transaction. In ISO, 4 codes are possible. We have already discussed in detail about DED, CRED and SHAR codes in our previous videos. Please refer to those videos for more clarity. Coming to code SLEV, this code means the charges to be applied according to the service level rules. Example, if service level is SEPA, the charges are shared. As mentioned, the usage guidelines define which values are allowed in particular schemes. The MT101 equivalent field is sequence B, tag 71A. In PAXO 8, the field is of same name. The next two fields are charges account and charges account agent. These are optional elements. The charges account field is used to identify the account used to pay transaction charges which may be different from the debtor account. And if this account is with another agent, then charges account agent field is used to mention that agent. Both of these fields are seldom used. There are no equivalent fields in MT101 and also PAXO 8. There is a section in PAXO 8 called charges information, but that field is used for some other purpose and cannot be used to map these fields. With this, we come to the end of the payment information section. We have covered the fields in group header and batch level. We shall cover the transaction level fields in the next video. Until then, keep smiling and keep learning. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, please like, subscribe and share for more such interesting topics on payments.